strategize. Ooh, hold up. There you go. How to create and strategize scroll stopping social content. And before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. My name is Andrea. I am a viral marketer, content creator, and entrepreneur. I've played a lot of roles in the marketing space, from strategizing for Fortune 500 brands and mega creators to working and partnering with other thought leaders branch in the world and being able to help them and elevate their brand to another level. And also a media personality. I like talking a little too much, to be honest. And I love um, just sharing my knowledge on my entrepreneur journey, especially as an immigrant in the US. I'm originally from Venezuela and I've been in the US since 2015. So definitely been here for a while. And I started my business really young. I started in the workforce at the age of 17 and slowly built my portfolio. And by the age of 22, I had started my own company, quickly blew it up with the help of TikTok, just like posting a lot of content, which we're going to chat all about today. And after that, now at 25, I do a variety of things that just really make me happy. And I feel like I'm really fulfilled through storytelling. And that being said, I love starting off with this quote by Seth Godin, who has the books right there, actually. And it's: content marketing is the only marketing left. You can have all the growth hacks in the world, you can figure out all the algorithms, but at the end of the day, what really makes your brand stand out is good content. And the beauty of today's day and age when it comes to content is you no longer need a $2,000 camera or a $3,000 software to make your content stand out. You can do it with the support of Adobe Express, but also your smartphone or anything that you have available. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok have really revolutionized the way that we consume content. And we're no longer looking at that one person, creator, or business that has perfect lighting or that has perfect looks or the Balenciaga bags, right? Like, we're looking towards the people who are focused on storytelling, on sharing something that's relatable and that's important for their audience. So I hope that that's what you take away from today. It's how can I make my content so authentic and so genuine and so focused on my storytelling that I don't have to worry about all these little, let's put up a 7-second video and loop it so that people watch it more. Like, there's always going to be a change to the algorithm. In fact, it changes almost every month, almost every week, because at the end of the day, it's code that anytime a feature is introduced, obviously something changes. That's why these social media apps, whenever they release something new, they want you to go ahead and test it out, right? So it's better to focus on long-term storytelling. In 2022, the most successful brands online are self aware, they're a space, and they're storytellers. They're self aware because they humanize the brand and they're able to really connect personally with their audience. They're a space because we no longer go to brand accounts or to small businesses account just to look at their products, but rather the full scope of their multidimensionality of who they are, right? So sometimes I'll be scrolling on someone's profile just to check out, what they're selling or if they have a new restock, but I'll also check out what they're talking about and what they stand for and thought leadership, right? I feel like brands have become creators, and that's why it's so important to have content parallels or content pieces that are adjacent to your industry so that you can also stand out thought leadership wise. What I also find really exciting is that brands, now that they've slowly transitioned into a place of like becoming a creator, they're also getting press opportunities. They're getting quoted on magazines, and it's just such an exciting place to be in. I also see small business owners taking on brand deals. So it's like now we're seeing this whole different world when it comes to marketing, and I love it. I'm all about it. And lastly, they're storytellers. They know how to tell compelling visual stories with whatever they have and who they are at the moment. No, they know they don't need to be buying a $3,000 lamp or light setting or setup just to make a video. They know that whatever it is that they have to share, from how, like, what the properties of a necklace is to like what it really means, the origin of it, the inspiration behind it. I feel like that matters a lot more to people than what it's actually made of. And in order to figure out how to best convey that into words, into social media posts, I don't know if any of you have heard of brand archetypes, but I love this conversation because this is basically how movies, media, books, TV in general, this is how they come up with their characters. A brand archetype is essentially the ultimate character representation of your brand. So if your brand or your small business had a character on TV, the brand archetype would define what that is. And it also defines your tone, your voice, and your messaging. And what I mean by this, and then you'll see it in a second, is everyone will always have a specific way that they communicate, even if they don't think that that's the case. From the way that you type out a caption to the way that you edit your videos, your brand archetype represents what that is. And there's a lot, but I'm just going to go over 8 of them quickly because I feel like these 8 are the most prominent across media. And also, when I'm working with small business owners or even myself, these are the ones that I see coming across the most. So the first one is the explorer. This is a character that's just driven to push the boundaries, to discover new things. So if you're a travel brand, for example, you could be considered an explorer. A foodie brand, maybe, or even like a travel creator would be considered an explorer because they're just curious. They want to try everything. Or if you're constantly having restocks in your business and you're testing out different materials at all times, like that is a form of an explorer archetype. Then we have the innocent. This is a character whose morals and intentions are pure of nature. So you'll usually see these in like kids' brands. So if by any chance you do like little onesies and stuff like that, the innocent would be a great brand archetype to embody because they are the wholesome. They're that one character in movies usually represented by children or pets. So like if you think of Moana, Pua, and Hey Hey, they're both the innocent because they're just so cute. Then we have the everyman, which is a character that feels relatable and familiar. So think of a best friend. If you scroll on TikTok, you've definitely heard one person say, "Hey bestie" or "Hi friend." That is because they're trying to appeal to the everyman's archetype in order to build a closer relationship with your audience. And believe it or not, although this one seems easy, is actually one of the hardest ones to pull off because it really depends on what you're bringing to the table personality wise. So, for example, if you're small business or you as a small business owner, if you're the face of that small business and you're trying to embody the everyman, you're going to have to go really hard on your storytelling and on the tea that you're spilling for your audience in order to have them connect with you. Then we have the jester, which is a wild, bold, and mischievous character, usually a trickster. So if you think of a fox in The Little Prince, he is a great representation of the jester or the trickster because through that comedy and through that sarcasm, they explain wild truths. And I really like this because I've seen a lot of apparel brands who are super sarcastic or who have like a really strong message about the world. But when you see it, it's just like a funny quote or whatever. That could be definitely a jester's archetype. Then we have the hero, the magician, the sage, and the ruler. The reason I really like the hero, it's because the hero is a hybrid of an archetype. You could be the hero as a brand archetype, but you could also embody hero-like qualities when it comes to the rest of the archetypes. You'll usually have a mixture of 3. So after we're done with these slides, I want you to tell me which are your top 3. But what happens with the hero is when you're telling the story over here, you're guiding your audience through a process of something that started and ended, or something that sparked and then the characters trying to figure out a solution around it. So I like to see this as a problem solver. The reason I like to embody the hero for a lot of my content, it's when I talk about my immigration journey, when I talk about starting a business, being a Latina in tech, right? I try to embody a lot of it because I showcase the internal and external conflicts that I had and how I was still able to build my company and be able to like grow my digital biz, right? So I love embodying a hero's archetype, but just know that you can be a magician and still follow a hero's journey. Then next up, we have the magician. This one's also one of my favorites. And it's a powerful character with mystical attributes, or even if there's no mystic to it, you can also embody this one by having a special method. So a lot of small business owners, whenever they create their products, they probably have a very specific way of getting them done. Or let's say that you make jewelry and you make them out of coins. I've seen a lot of people making like rings out of like spoons, right? And you can easily embody a magician's archetype because you have something that's special. And by you focusing on that as part of your visual storytelling, you're able to really create social buzz for your brand. Another brand that successfully does this obviously is Disney. They quite literally have become the magician's brand archetype. And for example, if you have a business that's slightly spiritual, like if you sell little like crystal bundles, or you focus on manifestation, spirituality, journaling, a magician's archetype would be a really great mixture, along with the sage, which is a character known for their wisdom, embracing nature. We usually see this in older people, just because they're more of like that mentor like figure that's full of wisdom. And lastly, we have the ruler, which is a commanding character that's known for its refined communication, that's in control of some sort, and that usually has some sort of like emotional or physical leverage over others. So think of like a lawyer. I love this type of archetype because it's the one that transmits the most authority. So if you're the type of person that loves like debunking myths when it comes to the product that you sell and whatnot, a ruler's archetype would be really, really great for you. So my question to you, please drop in the chat. What do you think are your top threes? I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so I can go back real quick and see your responses. But for me, I love embodying the hero, the magician, and the sage in my content because I make business and marketing content. So I'm going to go back. What are your top three? Let's see. Explorer, hero, ruler, innocent, everyman, hero. Oh, love. The explorer, the creative. Oh, awesome. The jester, the hero, magician and sage. I love it. I mean, this is so helpful in general because that way you'll know that, for example, a ruler's archetype communicates different than an innocent, right? The ruler's archetype is usually like very stern and strict, and it's like, here's what I think. Whereas an innocent archetype tends to be a little bit more like childish and a little bit more just kind and soft. Not that the ruler can't be kind, but like it's genuinely very soft, and that's what I love about it. The magician is actually my brand, a female empowered character, but super high fashion, very witty. Oh, I love it. Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back over here. Awesome. And then someone asked to look at the first slide again. Oh, hold on. It threw us back over here. Technical difficulties. Let me just scroll back down. There you go. So this was the first slide with the brand archetypes. If you can take a photo, there's also going to be a recording, but you can take a photo, a screenshot, and then over here, you're going to see the second page. So good. Okay. And then this is how I teach my creators and small business owners on how to best put themselves out there. I've used this formula, or rather, like this little triangle, and I call it the trinity of content. And in my opinion, this is what really great content is made out of. The first one is space, which is which areas, topics, and themes can you master? And the reason this matters is because I mentioned earlier, if you're a sustainable fashion brand, you don't just talk about the brand and what you're doing, right? You also talk about sustainability, you talk about sustainable fashion. So it's like, what other topics are either parallel or adjacent to your industry that could make sense for you to hop on? How can we get a little bit of thought leadership in it? Maybe creating some cute carousels. And you can obviously have your products in there at all times, but it's more like, what's the sentiment behind it? What's the thought behind it? The next one is your personality. So, what is your brand archetype and what elements represent it? So, if you tell me that your character is the everyman and a little bit of the hero and the magician, I'm probably looking at a very prodigious, I don't even know if that's a word, but like a very special brand that happens to be super friendly and super approachable. So, maybe in your captions, rather than putting something super inspiring or super controversial, I would see something that's a little bit more personal and relatable, right? And lastly, we have output. So, what does your content look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? This is very important because whenever we think of content, we just love throwing in some random things with colors and that's it. And like, here's our logo. But it goes a little beyond that. It's like, am I using any shapes or elements that I can add around the image, which we're going to do later? Is there anything that I can showcase that my brand is truly my brand archetype or that it stands for specific things. So I want you to think of this anytime that you're going to make your content strategy. I want you to sit down and be like, okay, on space, these are all the topics that I mastered. Just like brain dump them. Just grab it at the top, write the little like triangle, and then just brain dump it at the top. Then have your personality traits over here. You know, I want my brand to be fun. I want it to be engaging, approachable. I want it to feel like they're talking to their bestie, right? And then the next one is I want my content to look good, but I actually really like it when there's like a bunch of light. So that means that I need to be closer to a window. And I really like putting up the colors. I like things popping up. Like for me, I love it when things pop up, which is why I have like my little rainbow bookshelf over here that I don't have enough books for it, but I put like random bags and stuff just to have it be a little bit more colorful. And even that communicates your brand. I had a teacher in college that his name is Episcopo, and he would say everything we do communicates. So from the elements that are in your content to the way that you express yourself, it communicates what your brand is. Which leads me to my next point, and it's anytime I hear anyone talking about social media, they usually go, "Oh yeah, my content pillar, yeah, I have like an educational content pillar and then like an inspirational content pillar." But the truth is, that's not a content pillar. That's a content purpose because your purpose is to educate. Your purpose is to inspire. Whereas a content pillar is a theme, it's a topic, right? So the way that I want you to break down your content strategy is like this. I want you to think of your content purpose, which is what's in it for your audience. Then your content objective, this is yours. It's what's in it for you. Like, okay, you want to educate your audience, but do you want to nurture the relationship with them? Or do you want to just make juicy content that you know it's going to go a little viral or it's going to pick up some sort of viewership, right? And lastly, as your content pillars, what are the topics that the brand masters and how does it align with your core values? So when it comes to content purposes, there's usually about four. Sometimes people like counting five, which is the fifth one would be persuading. But I like putting that under inspiring because at the end of the day, and to inspire someone is not just to like make them like feel like, oh wow, I could do that, but rather like I'm gonna go take action, right? It could be that said the same thing about persuading. It's like you're persuading them to take action. Then you have to educate, to inform, and to entertain. And to educate is simply to bring value to your audience through lessons and teachings. This could be educating them on how your product works, a little how to and tutorial. Then we have to inform, which the difference between informing and educating is that informing, you're just bringing up to date information with some thought leadership, perhaps, whereas in the other one, you're literally guiding them through a learning process. And lastly, we have to entertain, which is to engage with an audience while triggering an emotional response. And what I really like about today's day and age when it comes to social media is that you can mix all of these up. You can educate someone and inspire them. You can educate them and entertain them. In fact, entertain them. In fact, for me, my best performing content has always been edutainment, which is me making skits of even something like this. I would sit down and there'd be two characters on my videos and I'd explain the other how to find your content purpose, right? So it's just a really great method to understand the angle that your content is going to have. But at the end of the day, it's not necessarily your content pillar or your content objective because the objective is more for you. So if you know, let's say for example, for me, whenever I make like little tips on TikTok growth hacks or Reels growth hacks, like that's discovery content because I know that it performs the best for me. But then if I make content that's trust building, which means that I tell the story on how I started on my business or mistakes that I've made in my business, that lets people know that I'm vulnerable and authentic with them, which means that they're more prone to trust me. Then we have community, and it's investing in your audience's interests and nurturing your relationship. So, for example, if anyone's familiar with the brand Duolingo, Duolingo is an app that helps you learn other languages. And if you go to their TikTok, all they talk about is how they love Dua Lipa, which is a musician, and they talk about the new Taylor Swift album. They talk about all these different things. Well, I'm assuming I haven't actually seen that last post, but everyone's talking about the new Taylor Swift album, and a lot of brands are hopping on that bandwagon because they know that their audience likes those fandoms. They know that their audience like those things. So by you investing in the things that your audience is invested in, you is yeah, invested in, you're able to build a closer relationship to them. And lastly, culture. What is happening in the world? It's the same example that I gave earlier on sustainable brands, on sustainable fashion brands. If you're a sustainable fashion brand, then obviously you need to be talking about the things that are happening in that industry and bring your perspective on relevant world events. So I love using this example. I actually forgot what these little stingy things are called. Tentacles, I think that's what they're called in English. But just think of your content pillars as like the squishy part of your foundational category as the squishy part of the jellyfish, right? It's like the little thingy that the fish would like bounce on in Nemo. But essentially, that is your foundational category. For me, it's business. Even when I try to break it down in many different ways, I talk about business, and through business, I talk about marketing, right? Because I can't talk about marketing if I'm not talking about marketing something in general, right? So I talk about marketing, and within marketing, I talk about small business owner marketing. Then under that, about content creation, right? So content creation for small businesses could be one of my content pillars, and that could be divided into subtopics. So this is the foundational category. These are the content pillars. And then from those, we're going to be getting the rest of the subtopics and content ideas. So when you think of, oh no, my content pillar is educational, no, it's not. That's your content purpose. Your content pillar is whatever it is that your theme is. And under that, you're going to be creating an educational piece. So this is how I would want your content plan to flow. This is a very simple and basic form to start. And I want you to think of adding all of these together, and then that'll give you your creative concept. So here's an example. My core values are vulnerability, inspiration, and perseverance. My current offerings, which means what I'm currently selling, right? So you want to take into consideration what you're selling at the moment. If you just release a new mug, a new jewelry piece, and whatnot, think of what that current offering is going to be so that you're able to sell that through the content, right? So that's my current offerings, just content strategy sessions and public speaking. Then my brand archetypes are the hero, the magician, and the sage, which means that anything that I communicate is always going to come from a place of like wisdom of things that I've learned myself and that I've gathered from my personal experience. And it's always going to be shared with love. Like, I don't usually make content that's like bashing other marketers' strategies or anything. I focus on positive vibes at all times with my content and on what has worked for me and my clients. Then my content pillar that I want to go for is content creation for small biz because it falls under small business marketing, which falls under marketing, which falls under business. And then after that, I want to have my content purpose and content objective, which is I want to educate. So I know that this piece is going to be focused on bringing value to my audience. And I want to make it a juicy piece. So I'm going to be doing it in an I'm going to be doing a content ideas for Instagram carousels because I know that a lot of people are starting to dive a little bit more into carousels. I know that the future is video, but we love some carousels because they're just so easy to make on Adobe Express and also just such a great way to tell a story. So that's the content piece that we're going to be working today in Adobe Express. Now, before we hop onto the platform, I want to talk to you about what it actually, when it comes to repurposing your content, what are the things that you need to take into consideration? I like dividing it into 4 categories, which means format, length, platform, and audience type. The first one is the format. So it basically tells you how your content is made, if both physically and visually. And with that, you're able to see if there's any sort of like content parallels that you can make. For example, if you have a long form video and the audio can stand on its own, for example, if I were to be recording this right now, it kind of wouldn't make sense if I'm showing them the jellyfish and I'm just like trying to talk about it, but I'm not showing them visually, right? Um, but if it was something where I'm like teaching something someone else or doing some sort of like TEDx by like not speaking or by not showing any sort of context or whatever, I could turn that into a podcast episode because the formats complement each other. I could turn an infographic into an email. I could turn an email into a listicle. I could turn an Instagram live or even this live that's being recorded right now. I could easily crop it up and just focus on my face, make it vertical, add some captions at the top, and upload that to my socials. Sometimes what I actually like doing, and this is something that I would want everyone to consider, is to rather than creating and making time to create content, just document your journey as much as you can. Normally, if it wasn't such a busy day, I would grab my phone and I would put it right here and just start recording as I'm speaking to you so that I have extra content so that I can work with because I'm documenting the day, right? Then I want you to take into consideration length. nano form, short form, and long form. It used to be just short form and long form, but the reason I like saying nano, it's because nowadays a 6-second video can stand on its own. It can be enough to blow up and work for your audience, right? So when you think of a 3-second video, 4-second video, 7-second video, that's what I mean by nano form. Obviously, that would be really hard to make into a podcast. So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you are repurposing makes sense and complements the other platform. Next up, we have platforms, which is okay, if I'm going to be creating within TikTok, what other platform can I repurpose that to so that it makes sense? See, a lot of people like creating on Instagram first, but the reason I love creating on TikTok first is because usually Instagram is a couple months, even like weeks or months later. Like I have friends right now telling me, "Oh my gosh, did you hear that corn song?" And I'm like, yeah, like 4 months ago, I'm not gonna lie. So it's like I always tend to create as my personal traits on TikTok, and then I pass that over to other platforms. But in general, too, like if I know that I'm going to have a podcast episode, I obviously want to cross promote that. So I'm either going to grab a graphic that I can make in Adobe Express and throw in a quote from my podcast and then cross promote that into another platform. You just have to figure out a way to make those come together. And lastly, and this is something I don't see people talking about enough, is the audience type that you have on each platform. Some of them are going to be problem unaware, which means that they're not even aware that there's a problem that you're solving with your small business, with your products in the first place. Some of them will be problem aware, but not necessarily know that there's a solution for it, right? For example, if you sell jewelry that doesn't tarnish with like sweat or like liquids or when you're taking a shower and whatnot, like, and they're not aware that that exists, right? You want to get them to a place where it does. So your content piece would be focused on, my jewelry doesn't tarnish when you go to the pool or stuff like that, right? And then you want to be able to measure the intimacy that you have with them, right? So, for example, the content I put on my TikTok is always going to be different from the content I put go on my email list, because obviously the people that are in my email list have a much more intimate connection with me because they've signed up for it, they've followed me for a while. So this is how I want you to think of when you're repurposing your strategy. I want you to think, okay, are the formats complementing each other? Does the length work for each platform? If there's each platform, like where can I take the content to from this one to another? And if I can't, is there any other additional content piece that I can create so that it fits the other narrative and the other platform? And lastly, what type of audience do I have on each profile? Okay, I'm gonna go back real quick to the chat to see if there's any comments that you guys are leaving, and so that I can take a sip of water. Let's see. Their TikTok is so funny. I'm assuming that you're talking about the Duolingo. Okay. I do not understand how a character would be expressed on an Etsy page. Well, it's simple, right? It's like the visual elements of your brand. Like when I think of a ruler's archetype, I usually think of a minimal design just because they're very just like strict, they're very stern, they're an authority, right? So I think of like black and white branding, maybe like very minimal, maybe like Pangram or Montserrat as the font that they're using, right? So it's like, okay, like how can I get my brand to feel the way that I'm portraying it? They also speak a little bit different, so maybe your copywriting, it's a little bit less friendly than others. So rather than being like, hi bestie, I'm releasing a new restock or whatever, it's more of like, hi there, we are going to be releasing our new launch 1024, stay tuned, right? It's like it's the little things that really help you embody that archetype. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the slides real quick. And okay, let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and go all the way down to where we were. Okay. So this is where the good stuff begins. I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite features on Adobe Express. And then after that, we're going to be creating our post together. We're going to do a small post. But the first three that I absolutely love is removing the background, because I can no longer do it manually. It's so annoying. So I love being able to just with one click remove any background. Then font and color recommendation, which is finding similar fonts and colors according to your design aesthetic. And the design variation generator, which is freaking wild. Whenever you click on it, you can basically get different variations of your design. So let's go over to Adobe Express so I can show you some of these. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. Adobe Express. There you go. Cool. So I'm in Adobe Express right now. I'm going to go ahead and create an Instagram post. And then I'm just going to go ahead and click on templates. So I'm going to find something that I kind of like. Let's see this one. Cool. So when it comes to the variations of design, you can see other things that are being offered, other templates that are being offered for you right here. And then if you want to just go through ones that you feel could work for you, again, it's the AI, so it's trying its best to understand, and there's a lot of text in this image. So let's try something like this. Let's see what this does. Ooh, I like it. I love this one actually. This one's so good. And then once you click shuffle, it'll keep giving you like different like looks for it in general. So I really like this. In general, as small business owners that are trying to do social media content, it is so hard for us to find things that work for us in a timely manner. So the fact that I could just be like, okay, I'm just going to do it like this and have it work for me, it's really great. And just do the work essentially and show me different color patterns and whatnot. And then over here, if you click on the text and you go to font recommendations, you can actually see similar designs or similar fonts or fonts that could work for the aesthetic that you're going for based on what people have used with it in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and explore more and see if there's any that I kind of like. I'm not going to lie, I like this one. I'm not too fond of this like serif looking font. So I think I'm going to leave it with that one. And then I'm also going to show you, I'm going to delete all of this real quick. I'm going to show you how you can remove the background. So let's say that we have this over here. You're going to click on your image and then going to go over here where it says edit image and you're going to click remove background. And boom, it should delete it. And then if you want to keep erasing some parts of it, because sometimes it won't be perfect, right? Because either the background looks really similar to the color that's on the actual object. You're going to want to go in and keep erasing some things. Or if you feel like there's things that were missed, you can also go ahead and click restore. And for example, if I were to do this, it would pop up in the image afterwards. So I think this is just a very clever way to like take photos of your products and just go in here and remove the background so you can edit it in your graphics. A little hack that I like doing is if you're, let's say that I'm grabbing like this little pink drink. I don't know if you guys have had the pink drink. It's really, really good. But if you grab it and then you put it against a contrasting wall, maybe a wall that's like super white, or I have like a little backdrop set up over here with a brown color. I could put it against it, take a quick photo of it, import it, and then go ahead and remove the background. And then I can use it for any sort of social asset. Another tool that I didn't really mention, but I love it, it's the replace tool. So for example, let's say that this was in a specific part of my design and I want to replace it with another image. I could just click on replace and it'll replace it in the same spot that the previous image was. So for example, if you have templates and then you're just copying a bunch of these pages and you know that you want to have the photo on the exact same spot, but you don't necessarily want to move it around or risk moving it around and then like having it be in an awkward position, you can go ahead and click replace. Then you're going to go back here and it should do it for you. And then you can flip it around, move it around, and edit it as you would. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slide and introduce the other set of Adobe Express, Avi Victoria. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slide real quick so that I can show you. And it's going to do it again. Okay, hold on. So I can show you the other features that I really like. Ooh, hold on. There you go. Cool. So the rest of the features that I really like are the Adobe Express Content Scheduler. I really like this because you're able to really like let yourself loose when it comes to social media. In the past, we really haven't seen any other like content tools that allow you to schedule your content and also be able to like there's really cool updates coming through. I know that I can't really talk about them, but I was just at Adobe Max. I was a speaker at the event. So I'm super excited for a lot of the Adobe Express updates that they're going to be. You guys are going to be mind blown when it comes to customizing the content once it goes out. So I won't share any more than that. But the Adobe Express Content Scheduler is key. And if you have the Creative Cloud, you're able to access it. Then we have brands, which is you're never going to lose your logo in a random folder again. I am guilty of that. And I always forget what my hex colors are. So if anyone's familiar with like the hex code, is essentially a little code that your colors have when it comes to your logos or your branding. And lastly, animations. You want to add a little bit of spice to your graphics and be able to keep the engagement up when people are looking at your content. So let's go back to Adobe Express. Mm-mm. Okay. So we're going to go back here. I'm going to go to home. And then that's where you can find the content scheduler. As you can see, it says new, which I like. And then when it comes to brands, I'm going to just show you real quick. Cool. So over here, I've uploaded my logo. I've also uploaded my smaller like icon like logo. And then I've also have all of my baby colors. So like baby pink, baby blue, baby green. I really, really love using them. I know that today I dressed in all black, but normally I'll have a pastel looking color. And I really like this font. It reminds me of, I don't know, it's just, it seems a little bit more editorial than it is techie. So I really like that it gives me a feminine look. And the beauty of this is that when you're creating, you have them available to you and you no longer need to be going back and forth trying to find it or uploading them onto the platform again, which is awesome. So, what I want us to do is I want us to go ahead and make our own little carousel today. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a cool template over here. I love that some of these were also made at Adobe Max. That's really cool. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started with this one. I really like it. I feel like these are very similar to my colors. Maybe a little too much hot pink, not my baby colors, but I really like this one. And what I'm going to do is that I could easily just add another template, but just for time purposes, I'm going to duplicate the page so I can have it available. And I'm going to go ahead and delete all these little items because I don't want them at the moment. Hold on. And I don't want to risk losing the background. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Designing live is no joke. Like, respect to the people that do this live because it is so nerve-wracking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't mess up. I swear I practiced yesterday. Cool. So although I really like these fonts and the way that they go together, it won't work for what I'm trying to do right now. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete the max. And then I'm going to grab these two and I'm going to center them over here. So I'm going to align them vertically like that. And then I'm going to just drop them in the middle. Hold on. Okay. Cool. Let me just, okay. Massive Virgo over here. And then I'm just going to write content ideas. Do I want to do them like this? Yeah. Content ideas for IG carousels. And I'm going to lower, let's put it at 60 over here. Size of the font. And then I'm going to just go ahead and center it. And then I'm going to turn this one into IG carousels. Cool. And then I'm going to drop this one to 95. Oh, not 900. Definitely not 900. Cool. And then I'm going to expand it. There you go. Okay. And I actually really I prefer this one, content ideas. I prefer it to be capitalized. There you go. Cool. So content ideas for IG carousels. And I'm just going to make sure that it's okay. Perfect. It's aligned. And then over here, we have the Max logo and we want to be able to change that. So I'm going to go ahead and click replace. And I'm going to go to logos. Oh, let me refresh real quick. Logos, because it should pop up. Sorry, old laptop. Give me one quick second. Cool. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and click replace logos, and then I'm going to replace it with my logo, but then it's black and I am really lazy to go onto another platform and turning it into white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here when it says duotone, and then we're just going to switch that color. Then I'm going to click that shuffle button and voila, you no longer need to go to an external software in order to change the color of your logo, which I am so guilty of. So content ideas for IG carousels, and then I'm going to go over to shapes. And I really like this shape. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it and I'm going to lower it right here. It's like a little twinkle star and I'm all about like little positive vibes. It reminds me of like the universe. I don't know, I really like it. Um and I kind of like this, but I no, I don't. I don't love it. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the fill, which is the color that's in the middle, and then I'm going to make the border stand out. Just toggle that. So I have it like that, but I do want a star that's filled inside, but maybe not that big. This is perfect. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on the colors. I'm just gonna click on white. And what I really like is the color suggestion, right? Because I have all my brand colors over here at the top. So I could technically be using that. Um, I just wanted to fit with the backdrop, but then it also gives me like the current palette of the things that I've been working with. So I'm gonna drop this one over here. And I might want to put an extra one at the top. So I just copied and paste that. Woo! Okay, cool. So content ideas for IG carousel. So for example, if you are working right now on your newest restock or release, you could easily do like what's coming up in the next couple of weeks or like the new products that are launching. And then you can do a little carousel. You can grab the photos and upload them to it. There's 100K assets up in Adobe Express, which is really, really cool. And you can be uploading your products, removing the background, and then dropping a really cool gradient that we have back here. And then being able to like showcase all the different options to your audience. Then we're going to go over here and we're going to be doing something very similar. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these little items that I have over here. Again, I just don't want to lose the backdrop. So I'm going to move this towards the bottom and I'm going to do the same thing that I just did. So I'm going to ungroup these and then I'm going to click on the individual words. But for this one, we're going to do it slightly different. I do want the design to be a little different. So the first type of content that I love recommending people to do whenever they're posting carousels is how-to and tutorials. Because carousels, when it comes to how-tos, like if you're guiding your audience and you're breaking down instructional content into simple steps, and it's through a carousel, the watch time essentially, or the time that they spend looking at the carousel, it's gold for your account. It basically helps you trend up a little bit more because the AI can perceive that they're looking at it a little bit more. So that's why I love so how to's. Okay, cool. I'm gonna put it right there. How to's, and then I'm gonna put and tutorials. And then I'm gonna expand it like this. And I kind of like how it's like a little slanted to the sides. Mm-mm. Yeah, maybe like right here. Cool, cool. And I actually want to be able to add like a little description over here. So I'm going to make this 40, this text size. And then I'm going to add a brief description of what I mean by how to's and tutorials. So I could say something like breakdown instructional content and into simple and effective steps. So after this is done, I'm going to actually make it a little bit smaller just because I don't want it to stand out way too much. And I'm going to put this right here. Might put this up just a tiny bit more. And then again, we're going to do the same thing, but rather than going back and switching and replacing the logo, I'm just going to delete that and go back on the previous slide. Just click on this one and it's responsive. So whatever spot it was on the previous slide, it'll transfer over to this one. And then I want to be adding a couple little like shapes. So how-tos, tutorials, maybe like a question mark. Question. Let's see. Let's see. Ooh, lots of question marks. I like this little 3D looking ones. I really like these. So I think I'm going to go with this one and this one. Okay, that's it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little smaller, and then I'm going to turn them into white. I kind of like the size of that one, but I know it's a little too big, so I want to leave it like that, but I'm not going to. Okay, there you go. We could do that one like that. And I just really like that these elements, though, even though they're like super simple and soft, they still represent what I'm trying to say, like how to's and tutorials. And then again, you can keep repeating and doing and duplicating the slides because you're making your own template essentially out of one template. So yeah, this was just one of my favorite ways to create on Adobe Express. I love taking advantage of all the 100K design assets that they have available, and it's really a great tool. I think that the thing that I love the most about Adobe Express is the fact that it's very natural and it's simple. Like I am no designer at all. You're probably wondering why is not a designer teaching us this class then? And it's because it's so simple that a video person could easily come here and design and do all the things together, right? So yeah, I'm gonna open the room for any sort of questions. When if it's Adobe related, I'll try my best to like answer it. I'm not really an Etsy person, so I can't answer that. But if it's content strategy related, I am your girl. So I'm just gonna open up the room. And thank you so much for listening today. Mm, I have the Creative Cloud. So whenever you have the Creative Cloud, you have access to a bunch of cool things on Adobe Express. You basically get it for free. I just stumbled on Adobe Express last week. Oh, awesome. How'd you stumble upon it? Do you recommend to always use the same font as part of branding, or is that old school? To be honest with you, I wouldn't call it old school. I feel like to this day, it's really important to keep a cohesive and consistent message. But at the same time, I do see the value in getting like fun, right? And it'll depend on on the type of like asset that you're putting out. So, for example, let's say that you were hosting a little launch party and it's Y2K, like it's Y2K oriented or like Y2K just like the event itself, like maybe you don't need to like utilize all your fonts. Maybe you can do it with like Y2K fonts that you source off of Adobe Express and whatnot. So it's like I don't feel like it needs to be super consistent, but I would say that having it be at least consistent 80% of the time, it's just great for people to always recognize what they're looking at. I related to Adobe and it's better for me in my designing. I agree. It's just very simple to use. I mean, like the fact that in general, like I tend to get very nervous when I'm doing anything live, let alone designing, and I was still able to like move things around and whatnot. Like it's very intuitive. That's what I'm trying to say. What kind of content would you say does well for jewelry brands that focuses on wire wrap jewelry or crystal jewelry, etc.? Oh, I see what you mean. I use a lot of them actually. Not this one, but like I have a lot of like little crystals over here, so I like always have them wired in there. And I will say I think that the content that I see trending the most online, it's what does it do for me, right? For example, I tend to wear a lot of carnelian crystals, just or like stones, because it brings out my confidence. So that being said, it's like I really appreciate having access to something that will like constantly remind me of that. So rather than just being like, here's a carnelian um necklace or whatever. It's more of like if you're looking for a stone that's gonna help you glow up and appear much more confident than you really are, or like it'll help you in love and all these different things. Like I feel like educational on that end is the way to go. And in general, too, for jewelry brands, you want to think of content of like adjacent industries. So obviously fashion's involved. You're gonna want to show it how to style it. Or something that I haven't seen a lot of like jewelers do, honestly, it's how to style like crystal jewelry, like that, like you mentioned, and make it look elegant and still make it look elevated, right? So yeah. Mm-mm, mm-mm. What would you say is it one to do consistent to boost your social presence and visibility? I totally hear you on the one woman operation. It definitely is a lot. So what I would do if I were you, and this is something that I teach all my clients, is rather than making time for content creation, focus on documenting your journey. Focus on, like, for example, if you're sitting down and creating like graphics for your small business, for your Etsy shop or whatever that is, record yourself doing that. You don't need to set yet another hour of content creation to like make videos of your stuff and like recording them and all this stuff because it takes a lot of time. You know what I mean? So what I usually have on hand is a little Gorilla Pod or an extra mini tripod. You can get these online for $10, $12, and literally just set your phone and record yourself doing things and then leave them all, put them in a folder in your camera roll called B-roll. And then after that, create a narrative. Like create a narrative and start, like, for example, if I have content that's me sitting down talking to a client, I'll probably grab that clip, and if it's valuable, I'll leave the audio in it and I'll make an educational piece around it. But if it's not, I'll just drop music on top of it, and then I'll add my context, so whatever it is that I wanted to share that day, on via text. And that way I have a 7-second and really quick video. It's out there, right? So it's, you want to document your journey, if that makes sense. Mm-mm. I'm drawing and selling mandalas, and I struggle a bit for content creation besides sharing my drawing process. And I'm an introvert. Will you have any tips? Yes, absolutely. So when it comes to creating content and you're a little bit more introverted, I definitely hear you on that end. In fact, one of my most successful clients is actually, like, has never shown her face at all. She has millions of followers and does everything manually. Like, she does clay designs on TikTok. So what I love about her content is the fact that she attaches a story behind it. And I've seen a lot of creators do that as well. So rather than you only showing yourself drawing the mandalas or whatever that is, you sit down, draw the mandalas, and maybe record a voiceover. And you don't have to be on camera for this. You can simply grab your phone and record a voiceover with like a little mic, or just like the mic directly from here. Write down a script of what you want to share. So, like, what got you into doing that? Or how are you feeling at the moment? Like, think of relatable and creative narratives that you can attach to your content creation. Some, like what I mentioned earlier too, it's like sometimes I'm sitting down, I'm recording myself, and then I just add a narrative to it and add text over it. So it just makes sense. But definitely go hard on the storytelling. Whenever you guys are missing on one side of storytelling, go hard on the other. So if you know that you're not going to constantly have your products or your face on camera, then go really hard on whatever it is that people are listening to. How do you save and organize all the media that you have on your phone? Do you transfer to your computer? That's a really good question. So what I do is, I actually, within my camera roll, I have an iPhone. I don't know if you have one, but I think that a lot of phones allow you to do this. But within my camera roll, I have specific folders. So I'll have like a camera roll, folder called B-roll, and that's literally just me living my life, from washing my face to like sitting down having strategy sessions. It's basically like all in there creepily. It's really creepy. I sometimes record myself having a moment, maybe crying a little bit, just so that I can have it and look at it afterwards once I'm out of that hard time, right? So you want to be able to document as much as you can, add it to a B-roll folder. And then if you know that you're doing product focused things, so if you're taking photos of your little mugs or your cups or whatever, it's make sure that they're all in one specific folder, so that you have access, easy access to them. I also like transferring them based on like weight, right? So for example, if I'm shooting something that's like 4K, or like a really a raw image that's going to take a little bit more space than the traditional image, I like putting those in specific folders so that I know how much time or how much space I need in order to upload them. Um, you're using a product program to create content to share, which presents a consistent image, and then we tailor the language to suit. Yes, 100%. Yeah, I also really I love using Google Drive. Um, and there's also another tool that within Adobe products, libraries, you can essentially like upload a bunch of files, and then it'll be available to you if you are connected to that account. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I remember using it in the past when I would use other Adobe products. So it's really, really exciting. So I suggest looking into it as well. Mm. Um, do you have to go through all the strategy and content pillars? How do you put all that ideology into something so small? No, that's a very valid question. 100%. It's definitely it's a lot. The thing is, when people think of making social content, they just think of one idea, and they're putting out one graphic, one video, one something, and then they hit a wall and they burn out. So my goal for all these steps that I just showed you is not to overwhelm you, but rather to show you like, okay, here's how to find all your content pillars. Here's how to find all your content ideas, your themes that you want to talk about, your personality of your brand. So then you can have multiple outlets and multiple content ideas to develop. Because otherwise, like, you're going to be creating one piece and then hitting a wall shortly after, and then hit me back with the, I don't know what to post, or like, I don't know what to talk about right now on social media, or like, all I have to post is like photos of my products and no one's engaging with us, right? So I would want you to follow the outline, and at least have clarity on how you communicate, how you put your brand out there, and also what do I talk about? And then from there, obviously, you don't need to follow that like big ass formula that I showed you at the a second ago to just come up with one concept, but it's just for those who need an extra support when it comes to creating, it's vital for them to understand why they're creating in the first place. Otherwise, you're just putting and aiming in the dark. Mm-mm. My sister and I just set up an Etsy shop. Congratulations! And trying to promote our products on Instagram. How would you begin to promote when you hardly have any social media presence? That's a great question. In general, I will say right now, the goal is to get you to the place where you're consistently creating, even if there's no social presence. And for that, I would want you to focus on discovery content. So I would suggest doing like a little sit down and see what's working for your competitors. So let's say that you have a jewelry brand or something like that, or you have a customizable cup brand, try to find other brands that are killing it on TikTok or on Instagram, because I believe that you should use both if available to you. And then after that, see what kind of content they're putting out and see how you can start replicating that content. I'm not saying go ahead and copy that. I'm just saying like how in your own way, tone, voice, messaging, and authentic storytelling can you start putting that content out there. Also keep in mind that video and like I love carousels because they're able to really engage people and stay in there. You don't just want to be posting simple like solid images and that's it and call it a day. You want to make sure that people that you have retention on social media is so much more important than the attention itself. It's like, are people coming back? Are people watching and like rewatching your content, right? So I would want you to explore video content as well. So definitely like invest in reels. So yeah. Mm, Adobe Express today I used in uni way back. Do they offer anything for free? Kind of thinking of revisiting them again. No, it's a great tool. Um, do you use a computer when using Adobe for your social media? I actually use both. So whenever I'm trying to whip up something really quick, like an Instagram story, I'll do it on my phone. And also for any sort of like vertical video capabilities, I'll try to do it on my phone as well to like add some text or trim and cut. And then when it comes to actually designing things that I could just showed you, I'll go on my laptop just because I really need to see everything really big. Otherwise, like I like can mess up the alignment a little bit more. Mm-mm. I create something and get views and likes and some follows and I go silent. Exactly. That's what happens a lot. It's like you create something, it works, and it gets you something at least out of it. Obviously, the goal is conversions, right? And like converting into the paying customers. But at the same time, it's like you want to make sure you don't hit a wall. And my goal for our presentation today was not like to overwhelm you, but rather like to keep you from doing that. But yeah, thank you so much. We have about 3 minutes left. I just want to say thank you so much. And if you have any questions, my at on Instagram is Andrea X Casanova, and I'm always here to help. And thank you so much for Etsy and Adobe Express for giving me a voice today. Mhm. I make tie dyes. What content do you think I should make on TikTok to stand out? I will say focus on storytelling as much as you can. So find something that's creatable and unique, maybe something entertaining and funny. So I've seen a lot of people like taking their product out there, taking a mini microphone and then just going ahead and interviewing people, having them answer questions, funny things, maybe like mini trivias outside. Like I'll give you the shirt if you can name one Taylor Swift song or something like that. Like believe it or not, that is marketing. Nowadays, that is marketing. Um, that is storytelling. That is a creative way to put yourself out there. I don't want you to think of just like taking an Insta story of your shirt or whatever, like a TikTok of your shirt. I want you to think outside the box and is if you know that the people that like your tie dyes are ages 18 to 25 and they're primarily female, they're based in California, they're based in even like the Midwest or whatever, like try to gauge an understanding of their interests and then create from there, if that makes sense. Mm, Time for online to sign up for your Titans playbook session. I believe that my Titans playbook session right now is unavailable. So, but I'll definitely update it afterwards. But otherwise, you can reach out on Instagram. I'm sending you all so much love. I hope you have an incredible day, and I will talk to you later.